anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. Brown goes inside. Oh, what a slam from Jaylen Brown. Powell, Pritchard banks in the three at the buzzer. Great in and out dribble. Oh, he set off the smoke detector.
What's up, everyone, and welcome in to your Celtics Source. I quickly wanted to go over the Celtics draft for the last 2 days, the first round on Wednesday and the second round Thursday night. Three very different players, none of them that I think are going to get any minutes. Maybe they'll play in the G League, possibly the last two they might just get rid of. But, since the Celtics did draft them, I think it is worthwhile that we go over them and then some of the, what's going to happen next for the Celtics, right? Obviously, we're going to go live tomorrow night to do a free agency, pre-game show sort of thing, right? Al Horford, Luke Cornett, both free agents. The Celtics really want to bring them back because they have very little center depth. They did draft a center, but I don't think he is NBA ready at the very, very best. I don't even know if he, is a G League player really. We'll see. But I want to start with, Hugo Gonzalez, right? That was the guy that the Celtics drafted at pick 27 in the first round on Wednesday night. He's an international player. He was playing in the last couple years for Real Madrid in Spain. He played very few minutes, right? But he's also playing with a bunch of old NBA players, grown men, real players, ex-NBA players, guys that are, pro, basketball players, right? So given that he's only 17, 18 maybe, it makes sense that he wasn't getting a lot of minutes. In the few minutes that he did get, I like his hustle. I like his, making winning plays, diving on the floor, right? He is said to be a really good cutter. So he likes to, make dives to the basket, get passes from point guards sort of in the paint on cuts and stuff like that. Unfortunately, the Celtics don't really play that kind of offense, right? They're a much, more of a sort of shooter from the outside, making plays, sort of penetrate the paint and then kick it out to shooters. And so, Joe Mazzulla is going to have to adjust if he wants to play him. Right? He might start in the G League. The Real Madrid season just finished up the other day. And so, I don't know if he's going to play in the Summer League. We'll get to watch. I don't know if we'll get to watch him there because he might want a little bit of a break after playing. But, he's young. He only played a couple minutes, but he's playing with NBA talent, at least sort of close to NBA talent. So, he knows what it's like. He's not your typical college player who's only played against college level, right? This is a much higher level. Obviously, he's only playing 10 minutes a game. He's not playing, 30, 40 minutes a game like a starter in college might. But, he has the intangibles of just making winning plays, right? He's not a great shooter. He's going to struggle on that. He's going to have to get better at that. But I do think, the Celtics want to, change their offense a little bit, given that this is going to be a rebuilding year, right? You change your offense just a tiny bit. You involve more pick and rolls. You speed up the pace. Cutting can be a new type of offense. We've seen this with the Pacers. We've seen this with the Thunder. You got to pick up your speed a little bit, right? Jayson Tatum, it's hard because, he's a very slow player, but he's also your best player and the player that you defer to on most nights. And so, while Jayson Tatum is out for the year, I think it's a good time to take advantage of playing a different style, which Joe Mazzulla, he's only played one style. We'll see if he can adjust. But yeah, I think Hugo is the most ready out of the three guys we played, despite, draft experts actually thought he was going to go higher until he just didn't play that much this year. So he slid a little bit, which I think the Celtics actually got lucky and are getting a good pick out of this slot. The next two players, there's not much on them. Amari Williams, he's a center, from Kentucky. The Celtics actually, funny enough, right? They wanted to pick, forget who it was, but they originally had the number 32nd pick, right? So the second pick in that second round, right? And they got a player that they were thinking about getting a player that probably should have went in round one. And the Suns actually figured out, they wanted that player as well. They, basically figured out that the Celtics wanted that player and moved up to pick before them in that 31st spot, which then, they took this player the Celtics wanted, and the Celtics immediately traded their one pick to the Orlando Magic for two picks later in this draft, but also a 2026 second round pick and a 2027 second round pick. If you're the Magic, I have no idea why you do this kind of trade because, there was there wasn't like a clear cut player you could take at 32nd after the guy went before him. So I don't know why you give up four picks for just one pick. And, the most likely scenario is none of these guys play anyway, so it doesn't make much of a difference. But second round picks, you can add them in to really any deal, any trade to sort of just boost it up, get the incentive up. Maybe that sort of, you don't lose much, but maybe that gets you over the hump on a trade that wasn't, working out for both sides. But Amari Williams, right? He is a center, right? The Celtics obviously traded Kristaps Porzingis to the Hawks earlier this week. So obviously they're in need for center depth, especially because Al Horford, Luke Cornett, they are free agents. We're going to talk all about that tomorrow. But at best case, you need some sort of center, right? I don't think you want to just rely on Neemias Queta and Xavier Tillman, who are probably much more developed than he is. But still, you need some sort of depth at the center position, right? And I don't think he's going to play right away. He's probably going to be on a two-way with the G League as well. But, the Celtics are going to really try and get Luke back, Cornett back, or Luke and Al back. But, Al's going to have to come back on a veteran minimum if he wants to do that because he loves Boston. Sure, but he also might want to finish his career somewhere in a place that's going to win if this is going to be his last year because obviously the Celtics are not in a win mode for this year. Luke Cornett, right? He is a starting caliber center on some teams, right? The Lakers need a center. They might go out and try and offer him a big contract. Right, he could probably get up to $15-20 million for a team that is desperate. Obviously, if he wants to come back for the Celtics cannot afford to pay him that much. He will have to take for a low $5-6 million. But I do think the Celtics are going to continue to go down in the salary tax. So maybe by the end of free agency, if he's still out there, they could re-sign him. The last pick, Max Scholga, he's a forward/guard, pretty small, does have a little bit of shooting, a little bit of athleticism. I don't expect him to play much at all. He is going to, spend most of his time in the G League. Maybe he won't even make it out of spring training. We'll see him at Summer League, but, my guess is, they'll probably cut him unless they are having trouble filling up that last roster spot. But, before I wrap this up, we're going to keep this short because obviously tomorrow we're going to go much longer with my dad, probably more in depth and everything. But I did want to quickly talk about, some of the players that these Celtics got back in the Holiday trade and the Porzingis trade, right? We did a video on that the other day, but the Holiday trade, right? Anfernee Simons, right? He's a great offensive player. Obviously, he doesn't have the defense. They'll have to work on that a lot with him. But the Celtics might be able to hide him with Brown and White and, any center that they have on the court, right? They might be able to hide him, but, he is a much better offensive player at this point in Holiday's career. Well, he's better than Holiday is right now in his career, right? He's a, he's a high caliber 3-point shooter on high efficiency, high volume, but he also, right, needs the ball in his hand, which the Celtics, I don't know if they're going to want to do that with White and Brown on the court as well. So I don't know if he's a talent fit for sure. I don't know if he's a culture fit because of his style of play. Not that he's like a, bad in the locker room or anything. It's just that, he has to have the ball in his hands, whereas the Celtics probably don't want to do that. They probably want to have it in mostly Brown and White's hand and see if Brown can, lead this team to a playoff team, right? And, if they're done, I still think with how bad the East is, how injured they are, they can still be at least a top 8 team, if not more. I think, maybe they'll be right around 500 in terms of record, but that'll be good enough, I think, in the East to get you a top 8 team at the very least, right? They're not tanking worthy, and, they're going to unfortunately be right in the middle of the pack again next year and get, a pretty mid, maybe they'll get lucky and get into the lottery draft. But my guess is not. They will be right on the outside. They'll get around pick 15 or whatever at the very best. So they're not going to get a star player next year. So it's going to be rebuilding this team through trades, through picks with your assets and whatever when Tatum comes back at the end of next season or the season after that. With George Niang, I think he's gone in the next couple of weeks at the latest because, the Celtics, they dumped Kristaps Porzingis for him just to get rid of the salary. George Niang doesn't have a great relationship with the Celtics after the 2023, I believe, second round of the playoffs where he tripped Jaylen Brown after his three, right back when he played for the 76ers. So I don't think he is a great guy to have around just because you don't want, that stuff happening again. And, he's a guy like Sam Hauser coming off the bench, but less reliable, your 8th guy at the best. I don't know if the Celtics want that kind of player because, they'd rather, play their young guys, Baylor Shireman, maybe they got Jordan Walsh, maybe the guys they picked in this year's draft than playing a guy like a veteran like that, right? Like see what you have in your young guys versus playing a guy like that, which you're going to get, but it's just not going to help the development on this team, right? Obviously, this is not a year about winning fully, so why play a guy like that? Why not play your stars? But I'm going to wrap it up here. Please like and subscribe, follow on social media. We will be back with a full podcast episode tomorrow live at 8:15 as well, talking about free agency, talking more about the draft, talking about, storylines around the league. Cooper Flag, can he exceed the Luka Doncic hype when he was drafted to the Mavs? But we'll talk about all of that. And until next time, go Celtics.
It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured.